everyone, it's Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Hope everyone's doing well. So this video is an important video for the upcoming Mercury Retrograde that'll officially start in December 2023. It's actually, I think, one of the most important Mercury retrogrades because of its connections, especially with Pluto. And I'll get into that as we go through this video. So bear with me. This is a little more advanced for, say, people who are just starting astrology. So you might have to listen to this a few times. I'll do my best to explain things as well as possible. But it is a story about Mercury. And it starts off with Mercury in its shadow in November and ends up being connected in with the Sun conjunct Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that's a little bit of a spoiler alert, I guess, but I'm just giving you the picture, the big picture, very Sagittarius. And then I'm going to delve into the details with dates. I am going to do your ascendants and sun signs later. I do have my own charts with me too, because I may need, there's quite a few of them. I'm going to be referring to them. But obviously on the video, I will have the charts and they'll be animated so you can see what I'm talking about as well, right? All right, so when we look at this whole Mercury going retrograde, it actually goes into two signs during the retrograde, and during the retrograde period itself. It is approximately half the time in Capricorn and half the time in Sagittarius. But it starts off with the shadow period in Sagittarius, and that's going to be on the 26th of November at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. It will be in its shadow. So that's coming up pretty soon. I'm here in about the second week of November 2023. So when we look at where the retrograde starts, which is in Capricorn, we know that Saturn rules Capricorn. And some of the sort of auspices of Capricorn and Saturn here, it represents responsibilities. It's where we put effort. It's sometimes where our hardships are or where we have a hard time. It can also be where we have tests. It's the old way of doing things. It can represent authority figures. It can also represent growing up. And it also can refer to, especially with the Mercury part in Capricorn, it's an old way of thinking. It can also be pessimistic thoughts as well. Now, when we look at the other sign that Mercury will be in, it's going to be Sagittarius. And of course, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. And that's an important point to remember in December. I'll get to that in a minute. So Sagittarius likes to see the big picture. It likes to see the future. It has optimism at its base. It likes to give benefits and gifts. It's also about taking risks. It represents, as a sign, foreign people and foreign things. It also represents travel, the law, higher consciousness, and, philosophy. But at its best, it's meaning in life. It's new positive thinking when we take Mercury into the picture with Sagittarius. And it can be over-optimistic as well. Now, technically, Mercury in Sagittarius is in its detriment, and so it just means that it can be a little weaker there. But that might not be a bad thing, considering that you can be overly optimistic, right? So at this Mercury retrograde, we also have another energy that's going to be operating the whole time during the Mercury retrograde, starting at the shadow period at the end of November. And that is Mercury will be squaring Neptune in Pisces, right? And that will be when Mercury is actually in Sagittarius, right? So most of that part of the shadow period is going to be in Sagittarius, but then of course it goes back and forth due to the retrograde and direct motion. So we have this Mercury going as a square to Neptune, and this puts an extra emphasis on potential challenges with regards to what? Our philosophies, our spiritual values, as well as, any of our belief systems are all going to be under sort of a challenge where we're going to have to be looking carefully at them. So I just wanted to mention that as an overall kind of theme or extra energy that goes on top of this Mercury retrograde, right? And if we look at the Mercury retrograde officially starting in Capricorn, they refer to those old archaic beliefs, right? So those are the kind of areas, especially in the collective. So that's kind of when we're referring to the world events. Those are the areas that we're going to be probably seeing considered at this Mercury retrograde. Now, I mentioned that Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is where this Mercury retrograde will go direct. And it's important to remember that Jupiter, transiting Jupiter, ruler of Sagittarius, will go direct on the 31st of December. All right, let's go through the actual timeline and some of the things that I think it may mean for us. All right, so we talked about already that Mercury in shadow starts off on the 26th of November at 22 degrees Sagittarius. It goes on then to do its actual retrograde. Now, what's interesting is this Mercury retrograde, which will be at 8 degrees, 29 minutes of Capricorn, happens on the same day as we have that new moon in Sagittarius at approximately 20 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, this is going to be Pacific time, okay? If we're looking at the East Coast, it's going to actually be the next day in terms of the Mercury retrograde. Why? Because the new moon itself, and I'm going to be talking about this new moon in Sagittarius in my December video, which I will be doing next after this one. The new moon will be at 3:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But then we're going to have that Mercury retrograde go retrograde at 11:10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 12th of December, 2023. So on that day, we're going to have the new moon in Sagittarius. That means the sun is in Sagittarius. And we also have, not conjuncting it, but in that sign, we're going to have Mars in Sagittarius. So go back to my little diatribe that I talked about with regards to what is Sagittarius, what areas of Sagittarius, life does Sagittarius bring up, and Jupiter, what does it bring up? Those will be aspected around this new moon. And like I said, I'll be discussing the new moon itself more in my December video. All right, so then the next thing that we have happening at this Mercury retrograde is I wanted to look at a few things. I wanted to look at the Palestinian chart for that time period. So when this particular, and we'll see the chart up here so you can see what I'm talking about, but I'm going to be looking at my notes as well here and the charts. When we look at Palestine's chart, we know that Mercury retrograde time period, actually it conjuncts Palestine's Neptune. So this brings in, because it's the retrograde, right? It brings in potential deceit, confusion, fogginess. It can bring in sort of a hidden type thing, where it can also just on its base have us reflecting on, our spirituality, that type of thing too. Now, transiting Pluto, as you can see in the chart, will be at 28 degrees of Capricorn. And it will conjunct Palestine's moon. So this whole new moon in Sagittarius with the Mercury retrograde going on the same day, Pacific time, is going to be aspecting a number of things in the Palestinians' chart. Now, I took the chart for the 15th of November, 1988. I did consider and look around and consult with other astrologers, and it seems like this may be the best chart. But hey, you may find other astrologers decide to pick another chart for the beginning of Palestine as a state, right? So we know that if transiting Pluto is conjunct the Palestinians' moon, we know that the moon represents the people. So this is going to be great transformation of the Palestinians, but Pluto can also represent power. So this is like potentially big power over the people of Palestine. And we already know things are going on right now. I'm not going to get into a lot of the politics. It's just that this stood out for me with regards to world events right now. Now, the next thing we've got happening is that Mercury is going to go direct. It will go direct at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. And that actually is going to be Pacific time. That's actually going to be on the 1st of January, which I thought was really interesting. It's going to be on the 1st of January 2024 at 7:08 p.m. And that's Pacific Standard Time. So it's interesting that, we're going to have Jupiter the previous day go direct, and then we have Mercury going direct the following day. In that very optimistic sign, go back to what I was talking about with regards to Sagittarius, at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. And recall that that whole new moon in Sagittarius was at almost 21 degrees of Sagittarius, awfully close to this Mercury going direct at 22 Sagittarius. So this has us, now that this Mercury is going direct, it has us looking potentially at our long-term future. It is in its detriment, as I mentioned, but one of the things that can be very positive with Mercury in Sagittarius is writing treaties. Treaties, that type of thing can be very positive. And I hope that that is an activity that will be going on at this time. We've got then Mercury that is direct, going back to its retrograde degree point of 8 degrees of Capricorn. Well, on that day, which is the 20th January 2024, we have something else very important happening. We have the Sun now at 0 degrees of Aquarius, conjunct Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. I think this is very significant, and I would say that around that 20th of January 2024, something very significant will happen with regards to a new start, for sure, with regards to transformation. That's the Pluto part of the Sun, and the Sun is one of the most important things in the chart. But this is really at a global level, and it has us looking at what? Things being equal for all people. Potential humanitarian type things going on. We could, as a separate type thing, though, also have something happen, say, in outer space, or some kind of major electronic breakthrough happens. This can also represent the internet as well. So something major may happen that way, maybe a major thing going forward, but it could also be a breakdown of some sort, too. Now, what's interesting is that, as I mentioned, when Mercury now going direct comes to that degree point of 8 degrees Capricorn on 20th of January, and that we have that Sun at 0 degrees of Aquarius conjuncting Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, wait, there's more. We have, following in February, we have Mercury, then Mars, and then Venus. At what degree? At 0 degrees of Aquarius conjunct Pluto. Now, I'll get into all that when I do my February video, but I wanted to mention it here because to me, this is almost like I saw this as literally electrical connections starting off really at that new moon in Sagittarius in December 2023, followed by all the other things that I just mentioned, and then having these inner planets. So these are fast-moving planets that are going to be hitting that same point that the Sun conjuncts Pluto at, and that's 0 degrees of Aquarius. So I think there's going to be some I see this as a positive thing. I think there's going to be some probably negative things that happen, but then it's going to be followed in 2024 of these awesome things that are going to be happening as a result of the Sun conjunct Pluto, Mercury conjunct Pluto, Mars, and then Venus conjunct Pluto. And it's because it's all at that 0 degree point of Aquarius that really we're talking about big initiation of transformation of these energies, right? And in particular, we're now focusing on Aquarian-like energies. Now, the final thing that's going to be happening, in particular in Palestinian chart, or the Palestine chart, is going to be Saturn, is going to be at 10 degrees of Pisces. And it will be conjuncting Palestine's north node at 10 degrees of Pisces. And that will be in March 2024. So that kind of wraps up what I wanted to talk about with regards to the whole unfolding of events that I think are going to be really initiated at that new moon in Sagittarius on the 12th of December 2023, kind of tying up in March 24, especially with regards to Palestine and a new direction for them, for their destiny path. All right, so I'm going to go into the ascendants and our sun signs, as always, whatever really resonates with you. Now, there's going to be 2 houses that'll be affected here. So we're looking at the house that's going to be represented by Capricorn, and then the other one will be Sagittarius. All right, so for Pisces. So Pisces, the Mercury retrograde starts in your 11th house, and then it goes direct in your 10th house. So this could play out a few ways for you. The 11th house can represent, for instance, the money that you make in your own business. And then we look at the 10th house, it's your career. So for some Pisces, you may be deciding to, or considering, maybe not having your own business and going back into your career, putting more effort into your career with a future sort of standpoint, right, with that Sagittarius. For others, it could have you working with people that are in groups that you belong to, and maybe you're given some sort of position of authority where you've got to work with groups to make things happen, maybe even put some documents together, or maybe help create a website, that type of thing. Putting structure around things with regards to the groups that you belong to. It could also have you reconsidering friendships as well at this time. And then when it goes, Mercury goes direct in your 10th house, maybe some of these activities that you've been doing in your groups facilitate a whole new beginning with regards to your career, where now you can see the future ahead for your career as a result, maybe what you were doing with these groups that you belong to, or your friends. Or your friends could provide something that's very, very beneficial for you with regards to your career. But the other thing that it could do also, Sagittarius rules travel, foreign places, foreign things. For whatever reason, after that Mercury goes direct, you start traveling a lot more, and it could be traveling for work. It could also have you dealing with people, right? Foreign lands for some reason as well, as part of your career. All right, take care, Pisces. All right, I'm going to wrap up here by just bringing up a few things back into focus for you. I want to talk about the fact that that new moon in Sagittarius is a kickoff of these energies. We've got that yod happening, which really points to, changes that we need to make with regards to the way we've done relationship, diplomatic relations, social stuff even, along with that new moon and the sun together, forming that yod. So it really does point to the new moon as being a kickoff time period, right? So that's the 12th of December, 2023. And then the other thing I want to mention is the degrees, right? So for something significant to happen, you really do need to have something happening at the degree points of what? We're looking at, for Mercury going retrograde, that's going to be at 8 degrees. And then when we're looking at Sagittarius, Mercury going direct is at 22 degrees. Now, I actually have, just out of a personal standpoint, I actually have my Mercury at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So I'm expecting some big, some kind of communications of some sort that are going to be important for me to move forward in my future in January. All right, I'm going to leave you with the fact that the benefit that's going to happen around the 31st of December 2023 is, yay, Jupiter is going to be going forward. And that's the ruler of that new moon that happens on the 12th of December. So look also at the 31st of December 2023 of some really bright, optimistic, positive outlook for your future. and also for the future, potentially, of some foreign nations and foreign people. All right, everybody, stay tuned for my upcoming video for December. That will follow shortly. Take care, everybody. I'm sending everyone lots of love and lots of positive thinking at this Mercury retrograde. Bye for now.